Good evening, everyone. Before you are the top 16 books that I read in the year 2020. Normally, when people make a top whatever, it's the top 10. But I did read a total of 34 books this year. Some of these are too good to not mention. I don't even want to call them honorable mentions. I just want to make, a top 16 list of the best books that I read in the year 2020. That being said, let's start off the list with number 16, Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Yes, this is the book that inspired the hit, phenomenal, masterpiece Broadway musical, Hamilton. I am not a fan of Hamilton as a man. But I will give credit where credit is due to the author Ron Chernow for digging into the annals of history to compile this magnificently researched account into our $10 Founding Fathers' life. Number 15 goes to The Lost Continent by Bill Bryson. He was driving across America in his car from the South to the East Coast, New England, over to the West, with one goal in mind. Where is the perfect town? No town is the perfect town, but there are certain towns that contain bits and pieces of that perfect town. It's up to us to do our best to travel to these regions and learn from them in order to piece together in our minds that perfect town, to live and experience the perfect town. Number 14 goes to an author whom I personally know. Great guy. Jackass Flats by Eugene Lawrence Fernandez. If you're not from Brownsville, Texas, you're probably not going to understand what this book is about. Because it's about the author, Mr. Fernandez, going around town, interviewing older people to get an oral historical account of what my hometown, Brownsville, Texas, was like when the people he interviewed were growing up. Each chapter is like a little vignette, so to speak, of a different aspect about Brownsville, about South Texas, the wilderness, the schools, some of the historical buildings downtown, some of the historical neighborhoods. Mr. Fernandez really outdid himself with this book, interviewing all these people, getting all that information, because once all those old people die, their stories are gone. This is a great undertaking by someone I know. I just have to include it in this list. Number 13 goes to Matamoros by James Caan. Again, this is also me being biased about my home region, South Texas, North Mexico. However, this book is historical fiction. It was written by a gentleman from California, I believe, who became fascinated about Civil War history. Brownsville and Matamoros were known during the Civil War for being basically the back door to the Confederacy. President Lincoln blockaded the Gulf Coast so that the Confederacy couldn't make money by exporting goods to Europe and other countries. So these crafty Confederates, instead, they smuggled their cotton and other goods through Brownsville, Texas. They crossed it over to Mexico in Matamoros, and that's where they made money. This book concerns a whole bunch of wonderfully crafted characters. It has this plot twist with a character that, oh my God. Even if you're not into Civil War history, if you like Westerns, if you like romance and adventure novels, give Matamoros a try. Number 12 goes to The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. This book literally looks like something a woman in her 50s would read next to a fireplace with a red wine in her hand. Hey, but I needed to include this book in my list because it saved me from a pickle. This book argues that people can be categorized into one of 5 what are called love languages, depending on how we prefer to receive or give love, namely words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Additionally, the one line that I want to share from reading this book that probably saved my ass from emotional distress and hundreds of dollars on dates, I imagine. Listen up. Allowing yourself to be manipulated is an act of treason unto yourself. Number 11 goes to The 48 Laws of Power by Tom Green. Robert Greene. I wanted to read this book because I got word that it's one of the few books that is banned from quite a few prisons. I wanted to see, what's the big deal? Guys, if you read this book, you better use its lessons for good. If you use it for evil, I'm going to smack you across the head with it because you're missing the point. This book talks about what is it that some of the leaders, the masterminds of history, what are some of the techniques that they employed in order for them to get what they want? Like I said, you really have to use the lessons in this book for good. Please. Number 10 goes to As Above, So Below by Lynn Adele and Bruce Lee Webb. Oh my goodness. This book is about secret societies, fraternities, fraternal organizations. It's about a crucial factor, a crucial cultural aspect about 19th century, 20th century America that doesn't really get talked about that often. That's when groups like the Oddfellows, the Masons, the Elks, the Knights of Columbus, groups like that were all over America to increase the social capital of communities. This book goes into great, fantastic detail about the gists as to how each organization operated themselves. It also showcases their gorgeous artwork, lithographs, stuff like that, their aprons, their props. You can tell that a lot of work was put into making this book. I wanted to go on a coffee table. Number 9 is Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. This is the official de facto biography of the what is it, second richest person on earth, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company, Solar City, former of PayPal. This guy has quite the resume. It goes into his work ethic, his line of thinking, just the whole history as about how he runs his companies, how he started his companies, and just how he operates. This man is a force to be reckoned with. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to read this book to get some sort of inspiration, maybe learn something new along the way. Number 8 goes to The Personal MBA by Dr. Josh Kaufman. I took plenty of notes, as you could see. This book concisely wraps up what you would normally learn in an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration degree, all into one book. Here you'll learn the basic gists on concepts like value creation, value delivery, sales, marketing, so forth, without you having to get yourself in debt. This book talks about things we kind of already know in the back of our heads, but it puts them into clear, understandable words. Number 7 goes to Principles by Ray Dalio. This book is actually great to follow off of the Personal MBA because it takes what you learn from the Personal MBA and puts everything into a sort of system. What is it about sales? What is it about marketing? And how do they apply to whatever it is you're doing? How do you want to turn that into a reliable system that functions like a self-running machine? Organizations, businesses, at the end of the day, are just a collection of people. People are difficult. Anyone who's ever been in a group project, in a small bit, in an organization, whatever, knows that people are difficult. If you are involved in any of that, you need to read Ray Dalio's Principles. And number 6 goes to The Education of Millionaires by Michael Ellsberg. This guy got so fed up about everyone being up to their necks in student debt and decided, guys, no, stop. Hey, look, Politicians, they're not going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. You have to take accountability. Here's how. The underlying message of this book is if you stick to the script, if you do what everyone else is doing, you are going absolutely nowhere. This book will encourage you to be risky, be financially adventurous, be an out-of-the-box thinker in order for you to make a name for yourself, in order for you to secure your own future, the future of your own family, the future of your kids. Number 5 is Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. This book is probably the biggest, easiest read that I've read this year. Without using pictures, without using jargon or fancy economic language, it very clearly and beautifully explains why the world is the way it works in terms of economics, in terms of finances, just the things they don't teach you in school. Basic Economics is here to teach you. If I had a magic wand, I would make every politician, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever, to read this book, take its advice to heart, and implement it in order for us to have a better ass country. Number 4 goes to Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Mr. Voss was at one point the chief hostage negotiator for the FBI. He argues that everything in life, everything is a negotiation. This book talks about some techniques that you could use when speaking to someone in order for you to influence or persuade them in a way that works both for the person who's listening to you and yourself, so that way you can both mutually win. If you are in any way involved with anything that involves other people, you need to read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Number 3, I made a video about this book, Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. This book is about social capital, the magic of social capital, and why it's been declining in America over the last century. For reasons that Mr. Putnam breaks down, all these wonderful organizations that were the backbone of small town America, churches, civic clubs, fraternal groups, like those mentioned in As Above, So Below. Those organizations aren't as active right now as they were in, say, the 1940s, 1950s. This book talks about why that is the case. It makes me want to inspire a revival in social capital. That's something that millennials of all people need. I go into my rant, my diatribe into millennials and social capital. Number 2 belongs to probably one of the rarest books I have. Century of Conflict by William Neale. Mr. Neale is said to be the first Anglo settler in Brownsville, Texas. He was here when this city was founded back in 1848. It talks about his adventure from him starting all the way in England. He just wanted to run away, get the hell out of his boring life, his boring, frustrating life in England. He hopped on board a ship to get a job as a crewmate. Then he somehow, some way got involved. He got involved in the Mexican War for Independence. He got caught in all this cannon fire. A local historian calls him the Forrest Gump of South Texas because wherever he showed up, interesting things happened. And finally, number 1, I've been a believer that the best books are the ones that enrich you, the ones where you could pick up a lesson that make you a more valuable person. It doesn't have to necessarily be an idea that will make you money, but just an idea that might save you from spending money down the line, or just make you make you intrinsically a more valuable person. In this case, number 1 is a book that actually did make me quite a bit of money. I'm talking about A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton G. Malkiel. Guys, as soon as the stock market crashed this year, I wanted to learn, okay, the stocks are on sale. How does the stock market work so I can I can make lemonade out of these financial lemons? I could summarize all this book into the sentence: seriously look into investing into broad-based, tax advantage, low-risk index funds with the dividends reinvested, and just invest the same amount of money in regular time increments. I know, even though I waited until the stock market crashed to learn about the stock market, the other lesson from this book is time in the market is better than timing the market. I basically knew that before I read this book, but this book explained like why it's important, why it matters, why it works. This was a fascinating read. I remember this was the first book I read during my county's shelter-in-place order. Definitely the best book I read this year. Read it when you're young. But also, if you're not so young, it's never too late. But yes, everyone, these are the 16 best books that I read this year, 2020. I think they're less than I read last year in 2019, even though I did have more time to read this year. But then again, some of these books are considerably thick, with 2 C's. There's something about reading that makes it feel more rewarding than, say, watching a YouTube video of that same topic. It's not the same. It feels like you're digging for buried treasure among these thousands of pages, and you found gold. You found gold on page 102. Hell yeah. Read it, you jot it down in a notebook, and you take it to heart, you employ it in your life, then you do your best to maintain that change. Yeah, I don't know. Reading's a great habit, and if you're contemplating it, do it. Besides, there's great books like The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits to make this habit ingrained in your lifestyle. I hope all y'all are having a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Happy everybody. 2021 is going to be a great year. I'm very optimistic about it. Here's to great 2021. With that, I say, have a good one, take care, read well, and kick ass.